Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. So here on this video, I would like to have an elaborations on an approach to communicate with students under the subject of classroom management. But before we jump into that, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Daffa Praditya Ramadan, and currently I'm attending a sixth semesters at University of Indonesia Informatica, taking English Literature as my major. So, without any further ado, let's get started. All right, here are the lessons target or the objective of this presentation. So first is how important to have an effective communications in the classroom, and then secondly is what are the paths to enable effective communications applied in the classroom, and then the third one is conclusion on how effective communications will enhance the student performance in the classroom. Okay, next one, I'm gonna discuss about how important it is. So this is a very foundational questions where we have to know how important it is to have an effective communications on student in the classroom. So having effective communication in the classroom is super important to enable students explore their ideas and figure out the solution based on their capabilities. And in a student-centered classroom, the teacher should not be speaking all the time. So we have to really rely or depend on the students' capabilities and how these students would be able to enhance their capabilities is through the teacher who will taught the material to the students and then afterwards let them do the rest. So we have to really put our trust or put our belief in the students into their abilities or capabilities. So we uh we can proceed to know like how far or how further the students have been progress with it during the class. And then why? Because of course when they're speaking, students count on them to provide clarity by highlighting key ideas, elaborate on difficult concepts, and provide clear instructions for in-class activities. So as I mentioned previously, it's because of we have to rely or depends on the students' capabilities, and the teacher is the one who can provide those things. And of course, the students would expect, the clarity by highlighting key ideas of the materials that they brought, and also to elaborate on difficult concept, of course, because students are learner and they don't know much about the material, and they need to gain this knowledge by teacher could that able were they able to elaborate on difficult concepts, so the students could translate it into more way easier or yeah, more way easier concept or more easier practical concepts, and then to provide clear instruction for in-class activities, because if it's not clear enough, then the student will not be able to gain any knowledge or acquire the requirements that they need to be achieved during the study. And then, what are the paths to acquire effective communication? So I did refers to one of the practical lesson from the MIT my MIT lab class. So yes, the first is the path to acquire effective communication. The first is through verbal channel. So this way relates to word choice. The same content or point can be delivered in different ways using different words. The verbal channel can clarify and reinforce course content by first is defining and using discipline-specific vocabulary, and then secondly to verbally outlining your presentation. So verbal indicators can signal transitions between ideas, helping students make connections to their prior knowledge and experiences, follow along and organize their notes. So yes, in the next slide, there are further explanations about the verbal channel. So this is a case. This is a study case. So when a student asks a questions, try to call on them by name. Because this will help to create a sense of belonging. So for example, when I teach in one of the school in the East Jakarta, I always do this. I call their name, so it could grows the sense of belonging between teacher and all the students. So there is an interconnectedness of feelings, interconnectedness of feelings to from teacher to students, so they would be able to be more comfortable when they are studying. And then thank them for their questions to motivate them to ask questions again in the future. So this is one of the small things that sometimes a teacher forgot to do, but thanking them is one of the way to express our gratitude to them, because they have been brave enough to ask the questions, because not every student would be able to ask the questions loudly to the teacher, especially when it in the class. So it's a very important to having thanks in for every questions raised by the students. And also, if a question is common, say so. So this will help the students see that others have needed clarification on this point as well. So we didn't have to like um always receiving their questions, even if it's common, but we could trigger them by saying that, oh, this is a common question, so do you have something, do you have other, like something in mind, but in others, because we need to dig down, like we need to dig down the material, so we will have a comprehensive understanding toward the material as well, not only for these teachers but also for all of the rest of the students. And then if you pose a questions and the students answer it wrong, this is something that you need to do. So first thing first is thank the student for responding. This is one of the way to respect them, to to show our gratitude. And then if the student's response is in line with a common error, say so, so they don't feel alone in their misunderstanding. It's also important. And then the second point is that to ask them the process that they use to come up with the answer. So this emphasize process over product, and also teach a good troubleshooting strategy. So we have to really dig down like their mind, their concept of thinking, because process is way more important than the product itself. So when we know the process, we will be able to understand people better. We will be able to understand the concept of thinking that they use for generating the questions that they might ask during the class. Next one is, so there are three like example when you do teach in a classroom. So there are three things that you need to do is filler praise the voice, of course, and then the potential student interpretation and potential replacement. So when you say you know like, so when it's overused, it can be distracting or signal lack of preparation from us as a teacher. And then the potential replacement, or the way out that you can take, is the silence. To be silent, just silence, and take time to think about what comes next. So silence is not always a bad thing, or in a bad term, but it also creates your you know uh peace, inner peace, and also mindful, and also might have to create thought-provoking discussions afterward after you do the silence. So silence is not always, a bad thing. It could be a good thing. For example, like this. And then the second filler phrase to avoid is, I'll tell you quickly, or details are not important, but, so potential, this is the potential student interpretation. So improper planning, like this isn't important, the teacher is wasting my time. Of course, if you didn't know what you are talking about or what you are teaching, then the students might have to think that, oh my god, this teacher is super sort of wasting my time. I shouldn't belong to this class. Why do I have to attend this class if the teacher as well didn't really know or didn't really understand it comprehensively about the material that they would like to draw to or they would like to taught to be to the students. And then the potential replacement is to consider removing this content and sharing it as an optional reading outside of the class. So if you don't know really about the thing that you would like to elaborate with during the class, then you might have to, take the another way out, which is to consider, removing the content. So you might ask the students to have an, additional reading like outside of class, optional reading outside of class. So you can ask them to like, if you got the answers, then we could discuss it back tomorrow in our class. So there will be some of kind of like trigger to the students to have this, feeling of curiosity. So when they were asked to do something like that, then yeah, it would be good for them. It could, it could be, triggering their mind and also their feelings to be able to answer the question, basically. And then the third feel praise to avoid is that this is easy. You should already know this. So this is, judgmental words. So it really, really shouldn't be used during the class because it will be just make students feel feel not really smart, feel dumb, for example. And then the potential student interpretation is students could be embarrassed or insecure if they don't know something or think it's easy. And potential replacement is learning takes time and practice, so it's best to avoid judgment of difficulty. And then the focal channel. This is the other part of the how to like what are the paths to having effective communications on students. And then for the focal channel, it includes aspect of speech as volume, pacing, and tone. So effective use is volume. Of course, you have to speak loudly enough so all the students can hear you. So things to avoid is stabilize your tone of speak during the class. And the suggestion for this is if you have trouble in speaking loudly, then ask your students to come nearby or like, hey, come here, come, come more, nearer to me because I'm not really, able to speak loudly. My voice is just, really quite, I'm under the weather, for example. My voice is not that loud, so I'm afraid that you wouldn't be able to hear what my lecture. And then, secondly is pacing. So speak at a speech with allow student understand you. So things to avoid is to mind your pace of speech because it will be crucial for the students to understand your material. And the suggestion is practice your pace of speech by asking for feedback. So for example, if you are teaching one of the subjects in the class and then afterwards you can ask the feedback from the students like what how was the how was the lesson, is that clear enough or should I change my pacing or my volume is not that clear. So asking for feedback to the students is super important because we know what we need to what we need to fix and what we need to what we need to enhance or what we need to level up, that we need to skill up. And then the last one is intonation. So emphasize each point. So not varying your tone can cause students to tune out. And then my suggestion is to ask for the feedback of the class. So for example, if you are have if you are reading the material like really flat, like not really having the energy to really elaborate more or emphasize more on each point that it's super important to know, but you cannot emphasize on the point, then the students will tune out. So the students will not be able to catch your lecture or catch your class because of you're so bored. And then the visuals channel. So your physical appearance, postures, attire, expressions are all part of your presentation and affect how students will get attracted to you. So for presence, position, and posture, standing up straight conveys confidence and authority. So you have to be confident. You have to have the good body, like the good postures, positions, and presence in front of your students because it would enhance or it could increase your confidence in front of students. And also, secondly, is eye contact. So it helps you connect with your audience and keep your students engaged. You may tend to focus on your gaze on a particular side of classroom, consciously make an eye contact in a wide pattern across the room. So it's important to see all of the eyes within the class because it's super important. So they feel like they were, it's they interact with you directly. Because of like your presence is super important for them and they are thinking that your attention is also super important to them. And then movement. So too much movement can be distracting, but well-timed movements emphasize key points or physically signal a transition between points, reinforce the information you are presenting. So when you are teaching in the class or in the auditorium or in a ballroom, you have to mind your movement because too much movement of course can be distracting, like what these people doing, like what are these people, like what's this person doing, like it's useless if you if you do too much movement. It's kind of like you are doing sports or you are doing exercise, but in fact you are teaching, so you have to mind your movement. So movement of course is good, but if it's too much then it will be really really distracting. So you have to mind you mind your movement, go a little bit, left, right, but yeah, it still catch your audience attention. And conclusion, last but not least, is that effective communication is essential for students in the classroom as it fosters a positive learning environment, enhances understanding of the material being taught, and promotes collaboration among peers. So by actively listening, asking questions, and utilizing various forms of communications, such as verbal, nonverbal, and written, students can effectively engage with their teachers and classmates to achieve academic success. Additionally, developing strong communication skills can benefit students in their future careers and personal relationships. It's crucial for students to prioritize effective communication as a key component of their educational experience. I think that's all from my presentation for this subject, which is the classroom management. And we were discussing a lot about the effective communication on students in the classroom. So I hope it's useful. I hope it's cheerful as well, and also could be helpful for you who would like to know more about how to effectively communicating with students in the classroom. Thank you for your attentive listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.